Hello, my name is Veronica De Los Santos, and I am here to talk to you about a public awareness campaign that deals with educating people on violence prevention, in particular, emotional abuse, and through the use of Pilates and fitness classes. So, first thing that people may ask is, why fitness and how can this help? Well, when people exercise together, they start feeling a sense of connection and vulnerability. They are able to build community and begin to have a network of people in which they are working together with to achieve a particular goal. Many people don't have access to fitness or don't necessarily want to work out on their own. And so by offering free community-based classes to the community, particularly only dealing with adults, people ages 18 and older, we can start building a prevention campaign around this. What this will do is bring the public in to a location where they would work for about 12 weeks, maybe 1 to 2 times a week for a period of 12 weeks, and do body weight fitness classes where there will be an instructor guiding them through a practice. This will help build a community, help build trust. It will also enable people to access physical activity and give them an outlet so that they have a place to go that will help guide them through a workout. It will also help people relieve stress and emotions through exercise. It will provide an audience to help teach people about interpersonal violence, specifically emotional violence, which is what I would like to focus on. So while they are exercising and we are bringing the community in to do all of this, build community, build trust, get exercise in, we also now have an audience in which we can reach more people and educate people about emotional abuse that we all know is happening in our society. It's just maybe less spoken about than physical violence or physical abuse. So what are we really doing in a program like this? Well, yes, we are increasing access to physical activity, but we are really strategically educating participants about emotional abuse. So what I have planned is that while the instructor is taking people through an exercise or a Pilates fitness body weight based fitness plan, they will also be intermingling messages about violence in our communities. They will also be sharing resources to the community about this. So I do request that the instructor who teaches this class is at least trauma informed, and so that they have some knowledge and background about trauma, and they have some knowledge and background about violence in our community, and so that they can address these messages very strategically within their workout plan. We will also share concepts, ideas, statistics, and stories about what emotional abuse looks like so that they can spot it, particularly if it's happening in their own homes that they can't necessarily notice. But with this educational opportunity, they will be able to understand a little bit more. And then also we are going to share what abuse looks like so that people can spot it among their peers and among the people that they intermingle with on the daily basis. We will also encourage the group to meet prior to classes and after classes or outside of classes to help build a community and build trust, build more friendships, and continue the conversation about violence and abuse outside of the workout classes that they're getting. We also will encourage those who may feel like that they are possibly being abused, or have maybe come to the realization that they are being emotionally abused, to be able to speak to someone about it. So I suggest that we also have counselors, licensed therapists on hand, at least maybe towards the end of the 12-week program, or somewhere intermingled throughout the 12-week program, to where people who are taking the program may feel safe enough to be able to speak up to somebody and talk to somebody about it. If they don't necessarily want to go to the authorities immediately, they may decide they want to go to a counselor to talk about options, feelings, emotions, and so forth. So there are definitely different parts to this entire campaign. The reason I am focusing on emotional abuse and not other kinds of abuse is because all types of abuse is clearly important, and we need to discuss it. That is the bottom line, and we will address that during this 12-week program. However, a focus on emotional abuse is addressed because emotional abuse is less obvious. There's a lot more gray area involved with emotional abuse, and it's not always very easy to spot. Our textbook Gosselin, the author Gosselin, wrote that verbal and emotional abuse may be subtler, and it may be subtler than physical harm. However, unfortunately, many have said that the emotional scars that incur because of emotional abuse take a lot longer to heal than maybe even broken bones, because that scar lasts such a long time. Bruises may heal, physical bruises may heal, not that they are, not traumatic in their own way. But the emotional abuse is so significant, yet so uneasy to spot, that I think there needs to be much more awareness brought to this type of abuse. Additionally, psychologist Louis Baer in 2015 wrote in a Psychology Today article that victims don't realize that they are involved with someone who has a deep-seated need to control them. It's not very obvious. Sometimes victims just don't realize that. And sometimes these people may be narcissistic, sociopathic, and it's not clear and out in the open. They aren't aware of the specific tactics that perpetrators use to erode other people's or their partner's self-esteem for control purposes. So because of this, because emotional abuse is such a gray area, I think much more awareness needs to be brought to it so that people can recognize whether or not it's happening to them, and that people can recognize if it is happening to friends, family, peers, coworkers, and so forth. Emotional abuse is among us. Very unfortunate, very sad. We know this is true. Half of the people in the United States have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner. 95% of perpetrators who physically abuse a partner also psychologically abuse their partner. So that is the only time when I think there might be a little bit more awareness. If you're being physically abused, you're probably also being emotionally abused. But bottom line is, we know that there are significant amounts of people in the United States that are experiencing psychological, emotional aggression, abuse, and so forth. Emotional and psychological abuse causes more significant inclination to get PTSD than even physical abuse. We maybe not know the exact causes of why, and that can be a much more complicated topic to discuss on the why that's happening. However, we do know that that is happening, and it is something that we can't ignore. So in this campaign, there will be a prevention strategy primary prevention strategy simply to bring awareness to the issue. We are working with the public to educate and research at the primary prevention level because it's the public. And we know that 1 in 4 people who attend these fitness events that are free and open to the community will have experienced some kind of abuse. The statistics just clearly show that. We also know that as long as people are present, it's a high likelihood that some people are being abused emotionally within this group. We will educate participants that not all abuse looks alike, and the participants will learn to recognize it in themselves and in others. Additionally, we will work on a tertiary prevention strategy. Well, just because we will be able to reach the masses or a good group of the community, and that's the primary level because some are being possibly abused, but not all of them, but it is good community awareness. Moving on to the secondary prevention strategy, we will not know so much if people are in that risky state. However, at the tertiary prevention strategy, my assumption is that over a 12-week period, there will be people willing to speak up, and there will be people willing to address this issue to their friends, saying, we recognize XYZ, we think you should get help. So that towards the end of the program, or at least closer towards the end of the 12 weeks, somebody will feel powerful or empowered enough to be able to speak up about it and decide, do they need to stay in a relationship? Do they need to get out of the relationship? Do they need counseling? Where should they go? What are their next steps? What are their options? At the tertiary prevention level, this is where people are in a situation where they know they need to do something about it. And since we will not know for sure if anyone's being abused, but we will be prepared for them to speak out, which I know I mentioned earlier about having counselors on hand, having therapists on hand, having possibly even lawyers on hand that are able to give free information about their options, as well as having social workers and community workers involved saying where are safe havens for these people to go to get out of an emotionally abusive relationship. There are reasons particularly why I focused on Pilates and fitness, and we have several articles that talk about the connection of fitness and helping people through traumatic events. But in particular, I wanted to point out Wang et al. In 2023 found in a research article that physical activity can be used as an effective intervention for individual mental health after traumatic events. So that is true. Physical activity is a good intervention to help people who are dealing with the traumatic events, because maybe people are dealing with the traumatic events but just not willing to speak up at the moment. Additionally, in 2011, Hassan and colleagues came up with the fact that they found a Pilates exercise program for 12 weeks has a positive impact on reducing the depression degree for battered women. So hopefully nobody is being battered. However, just the statistics alone show us that if there is a large group of the community coming to this event, some of those people will have at least experienced it, maybe not at the personal level, but someone they know is experiencing some type of physical abuse as well. So this program, I think, could work. I think it's something that we can implement, working with fitness professionals who are trauma informed, working with licensed professional counselors, working with licensed therapists, working with the authorities, law offices, and any lawyer that might be willing to provide their services to give legal advice, as well as social workers and other community outlets, in order to get the people the support that they need so that they can be empowered to live a comfortable life that they all deserve. That's all I have, and I'd like to just share are some of the references that I've used for this program campaign, and I would love to see this implemented. Any questions can be sent to me via email, and I would love to be able to discuss this in the future with anyone. Thank you.